the greatest third baseman in Cub history, Ron Santo.
The liner, hey, what a catch by Santo.
Hey, a home run for Santo.
Oh, great grab by Santo.
There's a drive. The ball game is over. The Cubs win it. Oh, what a finish.
And Ron Santo will be inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame today, right here in Cooperstown. A great offensive player in a pitcher's era and an outstanding defensive player at a vital defensive position. And we're pleased right now to have two Gold Glovers at second base, not just Harold Reynolds, but a man who was a teammate and a roommate of Ron Santo, a four-time All-Star, Glenn Beckert. Glenn, thanks for coming up here.
Well, it's great to be here, and anytime they mention Cooperstown, I'd like to come.
No doubt.
But, my roommate, I roomed with Ron 9 years. We were friends in the off season. He was a great friend, and he asked me to room with him in 1965, and I accepted, and I told my parents what a great thing this is. Unfortunately, 3 years later, I found I was the only one on the team that wanted to room with him.
So who picked up the check? Was he picking up the check, or were you?
Well, he was very good about that, and we were friends. I loved teasing him when he was alive, and I still tease him. But we had so many memories together. And I'm so glad that he's finally in the Hall of Fame. If you put his credentials up there and put him next to Brooks Robinson, no offense against Brooks, in many matches Ron beats him as far as things to do. Unfortunately, our team never made it to the World Series, and you never get that recognition that you so well deserve.
Well, Glenn, as his roommate, you probably knew early on more so than most people about his diabetes, which he didn't reveal until later on.
I found out about it in 1965 on a first trip to San Francisco, the West Coast, and one morning we're rooming together, and I see the bathroom door open. At that time, Ron was hitting 350. I was hitting 210. And I saw himself give an injection in the stomach. I says, Ron, get out of here. We got to talk. I need some of those needles. So I learned about diabetes then.
But how about his toughness? Because we know in about 11-year stretch, only missed about 7 games. Back in the day, no lights at Wrigley Field. Day baseball, year after year, playing all those games.
He put in a lot. I know as a roommate, I had to carry a lot of Hershey bars sometime with me. They melted in my back pocket there.
Wow.
It was a thing that he had it well balanced, and I give him credit. He raised a lot of money working for WGN with the donations they made to the foundation of early times. It was very good what he did, and I'm so glad I'm here. And I get to meet some of the guys that I played against who were great, and to meet players that they're in the Hall of Fame. They deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. They were just great to play against. And I was at an air was great.
Glenn, it is bittersweet here, I'm sure, because Ron is with us now. But his family is here, Vicky is here, and what do you think it would have meant to him?
Well, it's great. I told the boys enjoy this because there's a great honor bestowed on not only Ron, but you as a family member, you as his sons, and daughters. So they're taking it very well, and I think Vicky's giving the speech today. So I'll be so glad to hear that. I know it's a happiness not only for the for the Santo family, but for the Cub fans throughout the Midwest and Wrigley Field.
You know, in a closing question here, a lot of people watching today didn't realize what kind of player he was. When you look back on his career, what were some of the things that stood out if you were to describe Ron Santo as a baseball player to some of our young viewers?
I would say, regardless of what he felt, or his condition or what, he played as hard as any player on our team. And he would do anything to win a game. And he got a lot of base hits in critical times, and that's more or less Ron was our captain of that team.
We talk about his range a lot, and I know at second base you want that ball to you quick coming from that third baseman. What was his work ethic like, and what was he like getting that ball to you?
Well, he worked hard. I know he worked very hard. I wasn't the greatest fielding second baseman, but we got together. We had a great infield, Kessinger, and myself, Ron, and Ernie Banks was first base, and it was a great infield we had. We played together 9 years, and no longer is that done.
Wow.
Where the players now don't stay together. There's more free agency, there's more money in the game, and there's more agents. So it's a totally different game, and I'm so happy I got to play back then.
And he seemed to be underrated as a hitter somehow, Glenn. I mean, you're talking about a guy hitting 25 home runs 7-8 years in a row at a time when pitchers dominated.
Yeah, well, he was doing something else. He was consistent. In other words, regardless of how he felt, he went to that plate wanting to get a hit, and then crucial times, home runs.
9 years, the same group of guys playing together. That's amazing, huh?
What do you remember best about Ron then, Glenn? As this is his big day for his family. What do you remember best?
What do I remember about
Best
him?
about Ron, yeah.
Well, it wasn't the greatest to wake up every morning and see his headpiece, his hair on the bedpost.
Come on,
I mean, that wasn't the most attractive thing in the world. But I
When did he start wearing the headpiece?
Well,
that young?
Well, no, when he I think in his last 3 years of baseball, and then he wore definitely when he was announcer with WGN, and he was announcing a game from New York City at the Mets, and he come up. They were singing the national anthem, and his hair caught on fire against the heater up in the ceiling, and smoke come up, and he says, "Oh my God, I'm on fire!" and ran out to find some water. That was Ron, and he did some crazy things, but you got to love him for that. I mean, the things that he did.
I've learned a lot about roommates through the years of baseball.
Yeah.
The first question you ask him is who picked up the tab, and you sell him out on his hairpiece.
He picked up the tab. The one trip to LA, I had about $300 in 10s, 20s. He had 6 $100 bills. Well, late at night when you go out to a restaurant, after the game and you try to get something to eat, he'd give the bill $100. He said, "I got it." And give the guy $100. He says, "We don't take $100 bills." So he said, "Beck, pick this up and I'll catch you back at Chicago." He went back with $400. I went back with about 50 cents.
Glenn Beckert, again, former roommate of Ron Santo, now a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Glenn, thanks for coming up.
Well, it's been an honor seeing you guys. Now I'll watch you all on TV.
Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you.
Great seeing you. Again, former All-Star Glenn Beckert. Let's go to Peter Gammons. Peter?
Well, I'm here with Pat Hughes, who worked with Ron Santo. Pat, what was it like being with Ron Santo in a city where everybody seemed to worship him?
It was great fun, Peter. We had 15 years together. Eventually, we became known as the so-called Pat and Ron Show. He was a very entertaining man, very gracious, loved the fans. As you well know, he had his number 10 retired at Wrigley Field in September of 2003. This was the day after the Cubs clinched the division title. So that was the happiest day of his life, I think. That would have only been trumped by today if he were still alive.
Well, I mean, I know he was so popular. What was it? Almost an event every day with him at Wrigley Field?
That's one way of putting it, yes. He absolutely loved the Cubs. I tell people, and I've been telling them all week, he loved two things in life. He loved his family, and he loved the Chicago Cubs. Loved Wrigley Field, loved Cub fans, loved the organization, everything about it. But those were his two great loves, his family and the Cubs.
How frustrated was he by not making it in the first 15 years of the balloting?
I think he was frustrated, Peter. I really didn't know him that well at that time. I will tell you, though, for the last 10 years of his life, virtually every day in our radio booth, there would be somebody that would come in, an ex-player, an opposing broadcaster, or a fan, and they would say, "Ron, you deserve to be in the Hall of Fame." And after a while, he really could almost taste it. He wanted it so badly. He wanted to be in that same place, Peter, with his great teammates, Fergie Jenkins, Ernie Banks, and Billy Williams. In addition to that, he played in that golden era, the decade of the National League of the 1960s. He wanted to be in that group along with people like Willie Mays, Henry Aaron, Roberto Clemente, Bob Gibson, Sandy Koufax. We're talking about the greats of the great in that sentence. And Ronnie shined in that decade, and he desperately wanted to be in that group.
Well, Pat, thank you very much, and it's great that his family, at least, is here to enjoy this. Back to you, Brian.
Peter, thank you so much. This weekend, of course, induction weekend, but also a weekend to honor writers and broadcasters. When we come back, the 2012 Ford C. Frick Award winner, Tim McCarver, joining us here live on the set. Back with Tim after this.